Title: The Trials of a Brahmin, A Tale of Wisdom and Kindness. Chapter 1: The Village of Serenity. In a land far away, nestled between the towering mountains in the north and the endless seas to the south, lay a picturesque village named Serenity. This village, although small, was known across the region, not for its scenic beauty or the fertile lands that surrounded it, but for a humble abode that stood at its center. This was the home of Dev, the wise Brahmin. Dev wasn't just any Brahmin. He was a scholar, a philosopher, and more importantly, a teacher. His wisdom wasn't merely inherited through scriptures. It was earned through years of travel, experiences, and deep contemplation. He believed that knowledge was the essence of life. Its true value lay not in its possession, but in its dissemination. Mornings in Serenity were always abuzz with activity. Children from the village and neighboring towns gathered around Dev, hanging on to his every word. He narrated tales from the scriptures, stories from his travels, and lessons from life. Each story was a lesson in morality, ethics, and virtues that transcended age and time. Yet, Dev was troubled. Knowledge he possessed, he felt, was still incomplete. The vastness of what lay beyond his understanding weighed on him. His sleep was often disrupted by dreams of a mountain, tall and insurmountable, which he believed was a representation of his own quest for knowledge. Chapter 2: The Unusual Requests. One fateful day, as Dev sat under the sprawling banyan tree, a humble farmer named Kishan approached him, carrying his infant daughter Radha. Kishan wasn't seeking advice on crops or seasons. He had a request that was both unique and profound. "A wise one," began Kishan, his voice trembling. "I am but a simple farmer. My world is limited to the fields and the changing seasons. But my daughter," he said, looking at Radha, "she's different. At night, when I narrate stories of your teachings, her eyes light up with a curious spark. I believe she has a thirst for knowledge that I cannot quench." Dev looked at the child, her innocent eyes gazing back. She held a tiny book, handed down through generations, clasping it as if it was her most prized possession. He realized that this wasn't just a farmer's whimsical observation. This child had the potential to achieve the understanding he yearned for. Moved, Dev made a silent promise not just to teach Radha, but to find the purest form of knowledge for her, something beyond books and tales. Chapter 3: The Journey to the Mountains. Armed with a resolve as sturdy as the mountains, Dev embarked on his journey north. The path was treacherous. He faced numerous challenges: dense forests where the canopy was so thick that sunlight struggled to pierce through, rivers with currents strong enough to deter the most determined traveler, and snow-clad peaks where the air was so thin that it felt like inhaling needles of ice. However, it wasn't the physical challenges that tested Dev. It was the mental and spiritual ones. Each step towards the mountain brought forth memories of his teachings, his students, and his purpose. Doubts began to cloud his mind. Was his quest selfish? Was he abandoning his duty towards his students? Was this journey an escape? But with every doubt came an answer. The universe seemed to be guiding him, assuring him. He remembered the promise he made to Kishan and little Radha. This journey was for them and for every soul that sought knowledge. Chapter 4: Encounters with the Forest Spirits. The forest at the mountain's base was believed to be enchanted. Legends spoke of spirits and creatures that tested the resolve of those who dared enter. And as Dev ventured deeper, these tales came to life. He first met Tara, the spirit of time. She was a beautiful apparition, flowing like water, yet ethereal like air. She posed a riddle: what comes before tomorrow but after yesterday? The answer, Dev realized, wasn't a word but a state of mind now. By being in the present, one can harness the power of both the past and the future. Next was Vayu, the spirit of wind, who tested Dev's humility. In his gusty form, Vayu tried to push Dev off his path, forcing him to hold onto his pride and fight back. However, Dev understood that resistance was not the answer. He sat down, meditated, and let the wind pass over him. His humility calmed Vayu, who admitted defeat. Each encounter with these spirits was a lesson, a realization that knowledge wasn't just academic, it was deeply personal and spiritual. Chapter 5: The Riddle of the Cosmic Dance. Ascending the mountain's peak, Dev met the hermit he had seen in his dreams. Surrounded by a glowing aura, the hermit appeared ageless. Without a word, Dev knew he had to prove his understanding of the universe's balance. The hermit posed a challenge to grasp the wisdom of ages, understand the cosmic dance of creation and destruction. Dev sat in deep meditation. He visualized galaxies being born and stars dying, seasons changing, day turning into night, and life's cyclical nature. The dance was everywhere in the rhythm of heartbeats, the flutter of leaves, and the flow of rivers. His realization was profound. Balance wasn't about stagnation, it was about harmonious change. The hermit, seeing the clarity in Dev's eyes, passed on the knowledge. He sought an understanding so deep that words could hardly capture it. Chapter 6: The Gift of Knowledge. As Dev retraced his steps down the mountain, he felt lighter. Not just because of the wisdom he'd gained, but because of his eagerness to share it. Every village he passed, he halted to tell tales of his journey. The tales were not just of adventures and challenges, but rich in life lessons. In one village, he met a boy named Aman, who was deeply troubled. His crops had failed, and despair clouded his vision. Drawing from his newfound wisdom, Dev shared a tale of how every end marks a new beginning. Just as the day give way to night and winter to spring, your troubles will lead to brighter days, he said. Moved by Dev's words, Aman was inspired to start anew, experimenting with different crops and irrigation methods. In another village, he encountered Myra, a talented singer who had silenced her voice after a performance gone wrong. Dev narrated his experience with the forest spirits, emphasizing the importance of resilience. Life, he said, is a series of notes, both high and low. It's the combination that creates a beautiful melody. Myra took his lesson to heart, and soon her voice echoed in every corner, spreading joy. Through these tales and interactions, Dev realized that knowledge was like water, taking the shape of its container. It was vast, infinite, and adaptable. Its true beauty lay in its dissemination. Chapter 7: Return to Serenity and the Final Test. As the silhouette of Serenity appeared on the horizon, a wave of familiarity and warmth washed over Dev. The village had transformed in his absence. The trees seemed taller, the rivers fuller, and the fields greener. But what caught his eye was a makeshift pavilion at the village center, with children and elders alike eagerly awaiting his return. News of his journey and the tales he'd shared had reached Serenity much before he did. As he narrated his experiences, every face reflected a spectrum of emotions: awe, curiosity, joy, and enlightenment. Days turned into weeks, and the village became a hub of knowledge. People from far-off lands visited, eager to hear the wise Brahmin's tales. But amidst this, Dev remembered the promise he made to the humble farmer. He sought the farmer's daughter, now a curious adolescent, and presented her with a simple seed. This, he said, represents the essence of all I've learned. Knowledge is a living entity. It needs to be nurtured, cared for, and allowed to grow. And once it bears fruit, it should be shared so that others can benefit. A young girl, named Sa, planted the seed with great care. Over time, it grew into a magnificent tree, its branches laden with fruit. Under its shade, Sa held session, where she shared tales and lessons, just as Dev had. The tree became a symbol of shared wisdom, and stood testament to the fact that knowledge, when disseminated, can benefit generations. And thus, the legacy of Dev, the wise Brahmin, lived on, not just in tales and scriptures, but in the spirit of sharing, kindness, and enlightenment. Postscript. Years after Dev's legendary journey, Serenity remained a beacon of knowledge. The tales of his adventures, the lessons he imparted, and the wisdom he shared, became an integral part of the village's folklore. However, the most significant legacy he left behind was not in the form of stories, but in the ethos of the village. Children in Serenity were taught not just to seek knowledge, but to share and apply it. The tree that Sa had planted from the seed given by Dev became a revered spot. Under its shade, many more tales were told, many more lessons learned, and many more seeds of knowledge sown. Every year, on the anniversary of Dev's return, the village held a festival. Elders, youngsters, and visitors gathered to share stories, experiences, and lessons. It was a celebration of knowledge, wisdom, and the spirit of communal growth. But beyond the festivities, what truly thrived in Serenity was the understanding that knowledge was not a treasure to be hoarded, but a gift to be shared. It was the bridge that connected generations, cultures, and souls. It was the light that dispelled ignorance, the rain that nurtured growth, and the wind that spread the seeds of wisdom. And as every child in Serenity would tell you, the tale of Dev, the wise Brahmin, wasn't just a story from the past. It was a guide for the present and a beacon for the future. The end. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the next piece. Please give a like and subscribe. Thank you.